An American woman this morning is sharing her terrifying account of November's attacks in Paris. For the first time, Helen Jane Wilson was inside the Bataclan concert hall when the gunman stormed in. She was shot in both legs. Wilson survived the violence, but her friend was one of the 89 victims at the theater who were killed. 2 months later, Elizabeth Palmer spoke to Wilson about the trauma of losing that friend. She is in London. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning. I had the privilege of meeting Helen Jane in her Paris apartment. Her physical injuries are well on the mend, but as you're going to see, the emotional wounds are still very fresh.
No one in this happy crowd dreamed that what sounded like the eagles of death metal percussion was actually terrorist gunfire.
I heard the sounds, pop, 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 pop. And
did you know right away what that was?
No. Didn't even occur to me.
Helen Jane Wilson was in the Bataclan with her dear friend Nick Alexander, the merchandising man for the band, who immediately threw her to the ground.
And they did their first round of, I'm trying to think of another word to say.
Killing?
Yeah, I just don't like to say it.
But that's what it was. As panicked fans stampeded out the stage door, dragging the wounded and the dying. Inside, the gunman hadn't yet spotted Helen Jane and Nick hidden under a table until
a guy next to us started screaming at them, insulting them, and 2 of them came back and saw us, and then I tried to keep him alive for as long as I could.
But Nick died in her arms, and Helen Jane was shot in both legs. Like scores of others, she was only saved by the skill of French surgeons. 2 weeks after the attacks at the official memorial ceremony in Paris,
Justine Moulin, 23 ans.
Nick's was one of 130 victims' names read aloud.
Nick Alexander, 35 ans.
In December, he was buried at his home in Britain.
Right there, the Bataclan Cafe.
The sidewalk outside the Bataclan may have been cleared of candles and flowers now, but Helen Jane's grief is as raw as the day Nick died.
Every single day I wake up and I cry for hours, and every single night before I go to bed I cry. And I tell him that I talk to Nick. I tell him that I love him and that I'm sorry that I couldn't do more.
Helen Jane, who's from New Orleans, has spent her life on the rock scene. Now based in Paris, she runs a catering company that specializes in food for concerts. But these days, it's hard to concentrate on work.
You still have nightmares?
Yes, every night.
What are they like?
A lot of times I have to save people, and I can't. Or I'm so confused, my brain is falling out on the floor, and I have to pick it up and put it back in like a puzzle.
Helen Jane Wilson witnessed a massacre, and like so many survivors, she's haunted by guilt.
Helplessness is the big thing, I think, for me. Not being able to help people. All of us together for peace.
The huge outpouring of sympathy and support helps, she says, but it can't erase what she's seen or give back what she's lost.
I've always been able to solve my problems in my life. Always. I can't solve this one because the pieces are permanently gone.
The really astonishing thing about Helen Jane is, as you probably saw there, her courage and, of course, her determination not to be bitter. She's able to discuss what happened, even with her Muslim friends, and she says she approaches the world these days with both love and forgiveness. Nora?
You know, it is the
An incredible story.
It is the deeply personal and intimate story that really shows us the horror of
Yeah.
tragedy
Yes.
and the courage that it brings forth.
Yeah,
Right.
so much more than just a news story. You see the feelings behind it, the guilt she must feel, and then the relief at living, then the anger she must feel that the people that provoked call the people back as they were leaving.
I know.
Oh, it's heartbreaking to watch.
Thank you so
Really
much,
good
Elizabeth.
story.
Yeah, incredible interview.